Hey everybody, Stephen Whittier here, 40 plus BJJ. I saw a post this morning I wanted to address real quick. Came up again about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu cardio. And someone was going on and saying, the cardio started recently, the cardio is killing me. Any suggestions? This is very common. Pretty much everybody can remember back, even if you've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for quite some time, and remember when it was difficult for you in the beginning and you felt like even if you had run marathons before, this was killing you, right? We've had all manner of people come through my place that have, again, triathletes, CrossFit people, whatever, and simply using your energy systems in a different way until you adapt to the activity. Jiu-Jitsu is very metabolically demanding, and often people don't really realize that until they're having to contend with the realities of another human being's body mass, right? So we can all sympathize. Now, the advice that came on pretty much was just roll more. And if you guys have been paying attention to my material for quite some time, sort of like up there with when people say, how do I get better at jiu-jitsu? And the answer is always, just train more. Just got to train more. That's always, at least in part, true, even mostly true, because again, there's no substitute for time on the mat. So it's useful advice, but it's incomplete and without proper context. So when it comes to cardio, I recently did, that's why this is called part 2. I recently did a talk on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu cardio with the consideration of the different energy systems, alactic, lactic, and aerobic. So alactic and lactic are the two anaerobic systems. Talked a little bit about that, and then the aerobic system. But this is more just about how to start to be able to roll without feeling like you're dead. And yes, 100%, the more you do it, the better it gets. But the answer to just roll more, to me, is incomplete. And that's not just as a practitioner, but actually somebody who's coached for, nearly 20 years and paid a lot of attention. So here's the advice I would give additionally. It's a sliding scale. So number one, not only are you adapting the more that you do the activity, because that's what the human body does, but you're also starting to become more efficient, right? So the adaptive process of building activity-specific cardio is going up. At the same time, the amount of effort, hopefully, is going down. And that's important because the efficiency is often overlooked. And so if you say like roll more, it's like, okay, well, what do you mean by roll more? Do you mean roll really hard and you're gassed and you can't move at the end for a while until you build up adaptively, so you continue to just roll really hard using maybe more physicality than you need to? But the efficiency part is lacking. So it's very important to take that in consideration. So part 2 of roll more for me is relax more. And that is critical. Somebody brought up in those comments, pay attention to your breathing. I've talked about that before in here. One of the main things, I think I mentioned it even in the last video, is going into training for, start with one class, maybe go for a week. I've even had people say this is going to be your primary objective during live training for the next month, is minus whatever happens in terms of an outcome, like getting swept, getting submitted, so on and so forth. Forget about that. Your primary goal, right? That's sort of like a script, secondary consideration running in the background. Your primary goal is going to be awareness of your breathing at all times. So as soon as you, almost like meditation, as soon as you become aware that your mind has wandered, right, you simply return your attention. In this case, it's as soon as you feel that you are ramping up, holding your breath for those little microseconds, burning energy, feeling like you're exhausted, working too hard, you have to find some other way. You have to modulate your breathing. So you start off doing that consciously until it becomes unconscious, till it becomes second nature. Then you can go back to other priorities, like, more on the physical side of the physical technical side. So train more, yes. Relaxing more, equally important part of the conversation. And then I would simply add, how do you facilitate that? Because roll more to me, again, is always a little bit misleading. I would add in there, you go to the, it's still free in the announcement section, the resource of the jiu-jitsu skill development course. So it breaks it down. So you also should be facilitating that by doing some isolated training with adaptive resistance. Okay, that will get you there much quicker because there's too much going on, especially if you're newer to jiu-jitsu. It's good for you technically, but in terms of the cardio, it will help you immensely because there's so much going on, so many things that are happening to you perceptually as you're starting to train, that it's hard to pay attention to your efficiency and your breathing and relaxing. People are trying to do things to you, and again, you're dealing with their physical body mass in the beginning while you're trying to also think about using techniques, and there's a lot going on there. It's very hard to have our attention spread in all those different places for a while. So how do you start to be able to have the recognition of what's going on and breaking off like piece by piece an understanding of what's going on in all these positions? Well, you do some more isolated training, for instance, just playing guard versus passing the guard, taking some of the stress off all the other things that are going to happen if somebody passes your guard, and you do that adaptively, not just 100% full out. So you start at one level of resistance. If you're pretty successful holding your guard or getting some sweeps or entering a submission or something, then you tell your partner, okay, start to pass a little harder, things like that. Then you start to be able to chill, start to be able to relax, have fun, experience the movement, creating better connection to your partner and using less stress. And when that happens, right, then being able to relax in those same moments during a free roll comes much quicker. So that's the number one way to facilitate the process, right? So awareness of your breathing and isolating the training so that with adaptive resistance, so that you can start to really have the efficiency side as well as the adaptive cardiovascular improvements as well that would come through rolling. So hope that's helpful. Talk to you guys soon.